Long division. The first step in long division is to make sure I have every term. 4x power 4, I don't have a cube, so I'm gonna have 0x cubed. I'm just gonna replace it with 0x cubed. Minus 4x squared plus 6x. Divide by x minus 4. So I'm gonna circle the first term and the first term. X goes into 4x cubed times. So 4x cubed times x is 4x power 4. The 4x cubed gets multiplied with the 4. Negative 16x cubed. Remember, in division you subtract. So this becomes a negative, this becomes a positive. I have 16x cubed. I bring down the negative 4x squared. And again, I circle the first term. X goes into 16x cubed how many times? 16x squared times. I'm going to go ahead and multiply 16x cubed. 16x squared times negative 4 is negative 64x squared. In division, I subtract. This becomes a negative, this becomes a positive. This is 60x squared. I bring down the positive 6x. Now x, the first term is 60x squared. I'm going to check how many times x goes into 60x squared, which is 60x times. 60x times x is 60x squared. 60x times negative 4 is negative 240x. In division you subtract, this becomes a negative, this becomes a positive. So I have 246x. I have nothing to bring down, but I can still go ahead. I'm going to check how many times x goes into 246x, which is 246 times. So 246 times x is 246x. 246 times negative 4 is negative 984. In division I subtract, this become a negative, this become a positive, so this is your remainder. Synthetic division. I'm going to write down the coefficients. 3, 7, negative 20. Always the opposite sign. If it's x plus 5, it's going to be negative 5. I bring down the first one. I multiply. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. I add 7 plus negative 15 gives me negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 5 is positive 40. I add, I get 20. So the remainder is 20. But how do I rewrite it? I say it is 3. Remember, you start with x squared and divide with x, so you go 1 power lower. So 3x minus 8, and the remainder is 20. So how do I write it? Plus 20 over x plus 5. Given f of x is equal to 2x cubed minus 11x squared plus 7x minus 5, use the remainder theorem to find f of 4. According to the remainder theorem, it says the remainder you get when you divide 2x cubed minus 11x squared plus 7x minus 5 with 4 is the function value at 4. So 2, negative 11, 7, negative 5. Synthetic division, 4. Bring the first one down, 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Negative 11 plus 8 is negative 3. Positive 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. And 4 times negative 12 is negative 5. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 plus 5 is negative 25. Remember, the last one is always your remainder. So according to the remainder theorem, the remainder is the function value at 4. So f of 4 is equal to negative 25. Solve the equation 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus x plus 2 is equal to 0, given that 2 is 0 of the function. Zeros of the polynomial, x-intercepts of the polynomial, they are all the same. They have already given us 1 0 and they're asking us to find the others. So let's go ahead and verify if this is a 0 using synthetic division. So when I'm using synthetic division, I would have the coefficients 2, -5, 1, and 2. Now you might ask me, why should I verify when they already told me that that is a 0? We will be seeing that in just one more minute. So I'm verifying using synthetic division. So I bring down the 2. 2 times 2 is 4. -5 plus 4 is 1. 1, -1. -1 times 2 is -2. -2 plus 1 is -1. -1 times 2 is -2. -2 plus 2 is 0. So if I get a 0 as a remainder, then I know that is a factor. But why did I use synthetic division? What else do I need? I need this part to give me another factor. What is this? This would give me 2x squared, because we started with 2x cubed and divide with x, we start with 2x squared. 2x squared minus x minus 1 is another factor. So now I know that f of x, which is 2x cubed minus 5x squared plus x plus 2, is nothing but x minus 2 times 2x squared minus x minus 1. This 2 gives me x minus 2. Remember, this is a 0 of the polynomial, so x minus 2 is a factor. From one factor, I get the other factor. That's why I use my synthetic division so that I can get to another factor. Now let's go ahead and see if we can factor 2x squared minus x minus 1. So I have x minus 2. And when I factor 2x squared minus x minus 1, I get 2x plus 1 and x minus 1. So setting each of them to 0, I get x is equal to 2. I get x is equal to -½ and I get x is equal to 1. So these are the rest of the zeros of the polynomial. So I'm using synthetic division to get this part, because I already know 2 is a factor. That is the hint they gave us. They said use this to get to this.